They're really trying to use war crimes to justify doing current and future war crimes. So Israel ambassador to the UK cites the firebombing of Dresden in 1945.
The popular firebombing of Dresden.
A deliberate aerial incineration of civilian population centers by the United States and the UK as precedent for what Israel is about to do to Gaza.
Jimmy, when I saw this about to pop up and I just saw the Dresden, they removed Dresden, I thought somebody goes, this is like what they did in Dresden, and someone in Israel's like, that's tasteless, you take that back.
No.
And I had no clue
that they were
going to go.
No, Israel's bringing it up.
Dresden is a war crime that some people know about and kind of overlook because Nazis are bad, right?
Yeah.
And they're actually going to try to, but it's not good. Nobody thought it was good, okay? They're going to try to use that as like, no, remember that great thing, Dresden?
Yes.
That we're all real proud of?
Watch this.
When you're taking babies, cutting them and tying them together and burning them to death, you're treating them less than an animal. Just the Nazis treated Jews like that.
Gazan civilians responsible for that?
The Hamas is responsible
exactly. For that. And what about the collateral damage of the Gazan
Hamas
civilians?
is responsible to that as well, because they're the one who...
So I'm pretty sure that the news person just made a good point. She said, okay, well, you talk about these atrocities that are being committed, but the Palestinian people aren't committing those. And this woman even agrees. She says, yeah, no, Hamas is doing that.
It's amazing. Here's what's great about...
Well, let me keep going.
Preventing from their people to get a shelter. The Israelis gave them the opportunity to find a safe place in South Gaza, and they need to take it, because this is as the best it can be. And I'm going back to the World Coalition fighting ISIS. So Mosul was a place where 100,000 civilians were killed. I don't want to go back to your history by targeting German cities. Dresden was a symbol of that, because you knew that this is the only way to beat the Nazis and make them surrender. This is the reality that Israel is facing. Cruel, barbaric terror organization. This is Al-Qaeda. This is ISIS. This is similar to the Western coalition in the last few years. And the world is a better place without ISIS. The world will be a much better place without Hamas.
Wow. So she just said, this is like what you guys had to do. Am I mistaken?
What country is she in?
They're in the UK. But she's the Israeli ambassador to the UK.
Mm-hmm. So she literally just said, remember that war crime that you did? We have to do that same war crime.
That's what she just said, right?
That's exactly what she said.
Okay, so one of the craziest developments of this war is that a talking point clearly went out for Israel officials to bring up the Allied firebombing of Dresden, 100% deliberate incineration of civilian population for no military purpose, as a precedent for Israelis' tactics in Gaza.
I strongly believe that if people will be focused enough to understand that we are going to come with ground forces as well, because you cannot eliminate these barbarian Daesh-like or Al-Qaeda-like groups that are slaughtering civilians in our border. I'm confident that if the UK, the Great Britain, would have 10,000 British citizens slaughtered literally by a Daesh-like group over your border that jumped in, you would take whatever steps. I don't want to go into history and remind you of Dresden and other operations. I want to remind you that the UK, as well as the United States, sent its forces over half of the globe in order to destroy Daesh. These are enemies of mankind, and we have to get rid of them.
So holy cow!
Now he's just some fringe guy no one's ever heard of.
No. He's the ex-prime minister. The one.
That's not good.
This is the one who got girls from Jeffrey Epstein.
I was
an
ex-IDF
soldier.
Is this the Epstein Island guy?
Yeah, this is the Epstein.
Look, he's got a point. If they don't do this, and Epstein died for nothing.
He kept saying Daesh, which is ISIS, right?
Remember how he went and killed everyone in Afghanistan to get the Taliban?
Everyone.
And then in Iraq, we starved all of them to get ISIS. That's how we won the battle of Mosul.
So that's what he's saying. He said, I don't want to remind you guys. You guys had to do this in Germany. You did this in Dresden. So that obviously was a talking point that went out. And they were all using it. And so the gray zone says, but caught this, that the AP, the Associated Press, AP erases Israel's pledge to attack Gaza like Axis power as officials threaten Palestinian with Dresden Doctrine. So I'm guessing, so that's Dresden, and I'm guessing is that Gaza now? Is that what that is? Or is that both Dresden? It's hard to tell. But let me get into the story a little bit, and then we'll bring you guys in. The Associated Press has quietly deleted a reference to official Israeli threats to subject the Gaza Strip to a Dresden-style firebombing campaign, the latest move in legacy media outlets' ongoing push to downplay the impacts of Tel Aviv's siege of over 2 million Palestinians. Quote, 4 U.S. officials familiar with the discussion said American diplomats became increasingly alarmed by comments from their Israel counterparts regarding their intention to deny water, food, medicine, electricity, and fuel into Gaza, as well as the inevitability of civilian casualties, the AP article previously stated. Members of the Israeli security and political establishment told the U.S. diplomats that the eradication of Hamas would require methods used in the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II, the AP originally wrote, adding that Israeli officials have publicly made similar comparisons. The offending passages have since been deleted without explanation, a textbook violation of journalistic ethics. The decision is all the more baffling given that Israeli officials have made no secret of their desire to treat Palestinian civilians the same way Western allies treated the Germans at the end of World War II. In an October 16 interview, the Israeli ambassador to the UK, Tzipi Hatovli, shrugged off concerns about the thousands of innocents killed in IDF strikes on Gaza, suggesting that because Allied powers killed tens of thousands of German civilians with relentless airstrikes in the 1940s, Israel is entitled to do the same. You know who would have some insight on this is the IDF-trained Cornell West campaign manager, probably.
Ooh.
There were many, many civilians that got attacked from your attacks on German cities, she told a Sky News anchor. Dresden was a symbol, but you attacked Hamburg, you attacked other cities, and although it was over 600,000 civilian Germans that got killed, we also firebombed Japan and then... Anyway, we quit a lot of work.
I think Dresden's bad. We nuked Japan.
We nuked them. Comparing the military-occupied Palestinian population to Nazis, Hatovli continued, was it worth it in order to defeat Nazi Germany? And the answer was yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, as you know, so Palestinians are about to invade Poland.
So this is like, what's her name, who said that... Madeleine Albright, who said it was worth it to kill 500,000 Iraqi children.
Why do you even have to ask? It's always worth it.
Always worth it. Media coverage of that exchange, however, largely centered on the Israeli ambassador's repeated insistence that there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. You can't write comedy this funny.
No, other than the Dresden we're going to do.
There's no addressing the uproar in a segment with Piers Morgan that same night. Hatovli returned to the Dresden comparison once again. We are giving the people in Gaza the opportunity to flee that Israelis were never given.
Jesus.
They were slaughtered in their beds, she concluded, but she was not the only Israeli official who openly invoked the Allied attacks on German civilians to justify Israelis' assaults on Gaza. In a heated exchange with another Sky News host, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett declared that, quote, when Great Britain was fighting the Nazis during World War II, no one asked what's going on in Dresden. Wow, this is really designed to break the will of the German population as its military collapsed on the battlefield. The British-led campaign of firebombing Dresden left at least 30,000 civilians dead and an entire city in ruins in February 1945. Wow. Historian Donald Miller wrote of the nightmare unleashed by the Allied aerial assault. People's shoes melted into the hot asphalt of the streets, and the fire moved so swiftly that many were reduced to atoms before they had time to remove their shoes. Their fire melted iron and steel, turn stone into powder and cause trees to explode from the heat of their own resin. People running from the fire could feel its heat through their backs, burning their lungs. Palestinians in Gaza have related a similarly hellish experience as the civilian death toll in less than 2 weeks of bombardment tops 4,000. The bombardment in Gaza tonight is the most intense ever, wrote Ahmed Nahad, a resident of Gaza. The scale of the attacks is crazy, to a level even unprecedented for Gazans. Yet, Gaza is without internet. People can't even peer out their windows to see. Thus, there's no media coverage. And here, it says, it's journalism malpractice for the AP to publish and then remove a quote like this without any note or explanation. And so here's the quote that they removed. 4 U.S. officials familiar with the discussion said American diplomats became increasingly alarmed by comments from their Israeli counterparts regarding their intention to deny water, food, medicine, electricity, and fuel to Gaza, as well as the inevitability of civilian casualties. The officials spoke on the condition of anonymity so they could discuss private conversations. Members of the Israeli security and political establishment told the U.S. diplomats that the eradication of Hamas would require methods used in the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II. Israeli officials have publicly made similar comparisons. Israel had previously said it would let nothing into Gaza until Hamas freed the hostages taken from Israel. Relatives, some of the captives, were furious over the... So they just removed that without
Why?
any explanation.
It's a bold strategy. Well, I'd like to know about it.
I think there's shows like
I
this
have
pushing
unquestioned
back
support.
against it, and people
Yeah.
like us who are pushing back against those crazy crimes. And by the way, the fact that she keeps on saying that we've given these people the opportunity to leave northern Gaza to go to southern Gaza, we've already talked about this. There's no room for them in Gaza anyways. I mean, it's overpopulated in such a small, dense area. But for them to kind of go and then retract to this whole position of that we can do what we need to do. You guys did what you had to do to rid the Nazis. You did what you had to do in Japan.
Didn't we do that at the end of the war in like the desperate
After it was
times?
already over.
We didn't there wasn't our opener.
Yeah.
Also,
It wasn't our opener.
And Lord knows I would never worry about civilian casualties. You know me, Jimmy. I would.
I
never
know
worry.
you, Kurt.
I would not make a big deal about that. But if the goal is to break their back, do you feel like that's what it's going to do? Because it feels like all your breaking their back seems to make it a never-ending cycle of violence. Like how Israel is not safe. The whole point of Israel is to be safe. Has all this made you feel safer? Because you can wipe all these people out if you want, but you don't think some people, I don't know, in the surrounding areas might have a problem with doing another Dresden?
Yeah. I don't think
Including
it was ever
Germany. You think Germany remembers Dresden?
I don't think it was ever to break anybody's back. I think it was always to show the world that we're the crazy ones and we'll do whatever we need to do at the end of the day.
I'm just going
you know
on
what I'm saying?
what they said.
We wanted to show Stalin when we dropped those bombs.
No, I'm talking about Israel's policy. Liz with Netanyahu. The whole goal is we're just going to break their back. That's what the whole blockade. We're going to break your will.
And so there was a real anti-war coalition forming around Ukraine and China and U.S. foreign policy, and now this splits it wide. This is exactly what they needed. They needed this, so now that anti-war coalition is going to be split.
Oh, I don't like that.
It is split, and so now the people who were, like RFK Jr., who was a loud advocate for ending the Ukraine war and told the truth about the Ukraine war, is now talking about China, Iran, and Venezuela being in some kind of an oil alliance that we need Israel to stop.
You know why?
And it's fucking crazy to hear him say stuff like that.
Do you know why,
It is
Jimmy?
crazy, and it is beyond reckless, irresponsible. Is beyond warmongering. He sounds exactly like Dick Cheney when he talks like that, and it's a heartbreaker. It's a heartbreaker because I had a lot of hope for RFK Jr. He's saying a lot of really rational stuff about authoritarianism, about lockdowns, about mandated vaccines, about Fauci, about the government's whole DARPA program and the bioweapon. He's doing so much good work, and he's throwing it all out the window because he's on board with starting World War III, which is exactly what this is. And this is exactly also one of the side benefits of this, if not one of the intentions of it, was to break that anti-war coalition. because people had in America had gotten tired of funding this Ukraine war that they don't give a shit about.
Well, you know why he's doing that? Because he is serious about running for president.
It sounds like
You
RFK
are not-
Jr. is serious about running for
you're
president.
You're not getting in. You think you're going to tell all the truth? You're not even getting near the money you would need from a billionaire to even possibly run for president. Saying any of the actual things happening, you got to be like the AP and erase this from memory.
Yeah, this is all being memory hold. Dresden, I was going to be memory hold, and I just can't get over that. I just can't get over all this, and I can't get over the people who I know personally who think this is all okay. It's just mental.
Okay, here's the thing, Jimmy.
You know, when you have an occupied territory, the occupiers have a greater moral responsibility than the people being occupied. All right. So when you are in prison, if you're running a prison, you have a now responsibility to make sure those prisoners are actually taken care of. That's actually your moral responsibility. They're doing the exact opposite. They put them in a prison so they can slaughter them. And I just can't get over people who can't understand this very simple point. It doesn't take a genius, because obviously I can understand it. And they propped up Hamas. They've been funding Hamas. As recently as 2019, they have Netanyahu saying, if you're for Israel, you have to fund Hamas. Why do you think that is? So they could split the Palestinian people, and so they could use Hamas, who they know were religious extremists, as an excuse to do exactly what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but here's one good. I mean, it's not really a good thing about the situation, but here's one thing about it, because I would never have known about any of this for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
On purpose, I would not know.
Right.
Okay, but now, because of Ukraine, because of all that bullshit they slung about the war crimes of Putin,
right,
flapping their jibs on and on about this monster Putin,
right,
and when you stack up what Putin's doing to the stuff that Israel just, Dresden,
right.
I don't think it's going to work as well this time, because not only have they alienated, as I said, the right wingers that used to be on their side no matter what. Those people are deplorable now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you lost you lost the people that were rah, go kill them all, Bible.
So you don't think the right wing? So it seems like there's a split in the right wing. So there's the
leaders are going to do whatever. I'm saying the actual right wing people.
But I'm talking the actual right wing people. So there's the Ben Shapiro right wingers, right, who are all rah, go flatten Gaza. And then there's the Tucker Carlson right wing, which like, this isn't our fight. What are we doing?
Yeah.
And let's get out of it, which is the most sane thing I've heard someone say publicly who has a platform about this, who's a right winger.
Get him out of there.
Right. And now people are pillaring Tucker Carlson for saying something rational.
Chappelle's in trouble too.
Again, who is?
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle, what did he say?
He made an Israeli joke and got yelled at
on
stage.
He yelled about it because you can't see. He basically talked about this stuff.
Some pro-Israel.
Some pro-Israeli walked out of his show.
Didn't he do the space Jews joke?
It don't matter.
I don't remember that joke.
Dave Chappelle in his special, was his last special, he did the space Jews joke.
I don't know that joke. It sounds great.
Are you kidding? That was the joke. So that was the special he got in trouble for the trans stuff. And I was like, what? He did the space Jews joke and everybody just pretended it didn't happen?
Oh, I don't remember it.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I didn't remember that
Malcolm,
either.
please find the space Jews
I also
joke.
don't remember Tom Cruise portraying the Jewish producer in Tropic Thunder.
Remember
So I was
that?
busy focusing on Robert
We don't
Downey
negotiate
Jr.
with terrorists.
Yeah, and I guess looking back, that was the more offensive thing. So now that woke is dead and all that because of this, a bunch of people, all the people that would have been gung-ho, because this move of Dresden and this is like if you still had George W. Bush Republicans that were regular people left, which you don't. You don't have those people no more. Those were the people that were Bible, but instead of that, as I said, you told them they were stupid for believing the Bible. 50% at least of the basis of Israel existing. You told them that was stupid.
Is the Bible? That's what you're saying?
Oh, 100%. People I know that aren't even religious that are just into Israel will be like, well, the Bible.
Yeah, they refer to the Bible all the time.
It's built in much the way the Bible's part of our Constitution. It's really part of theirs. So you told those people that believe in that they're stupid. You tried to make their kids gay. That might have been a mistake.
So when people say that Israel has a right to defend itself, which of course every country has a right to defend itself,
How much of a right?
but what they're not saying, what that usually implies is they have the right to defend themselves against another country,
Yeah.
not against a people and a territory that they've been occupying.
But they're as bad as Nazis, and they'll just get bigger
That's-
and bigger. If they don't do this, kill them all off like we did at Dresden, they're just going to keep growing like Putin. They'll
Mhm.
probably make another Soviet Union or Nazi empire, the Palestinians.
It's just
You
you
don't
know
just cull the herd
Yeah.
now.
this is to me it's very much like Russiagate and Syria and Libya and we're gonna it splits people, it makes people call us names and think we're the deplorables and what we're actually doing is I'm standing up for international law. Jimmy, what do you think should be done in Israeli-Palestine? They should institute international law, which would mean you can't do a blockade and you can't bombard civilians. That's what that would mean. And then we would need a real solution somehow, but that the big basis of that has to be the implementation of international law. But again, the United States and NATO are the greatest breakers of international law because right now, as we say, Putin is a thug for invading the Donbass to save those people from the shelling from the Ukrainian government. We invaded Syria for oil. That's it, and we're building military bases inside. Imagine if Putin was building military bases, permanent military bases inside Ukraine right now. We're doing that inside Syria right now. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. We're doing things on a daily basis that are way worse than Putin could ever think or dream of, and nobody but still the propaganda works on people that they think somehow the United States are the good guys and Russia's the bad guys, and somehow Syria's the bad guys, somehow Libya's the bad guys, somehow Afghanistan's the bad guys, somehow Yemen's the bad guys, somehow Somalia's the bad guys, somehow Iraq is the bad guys, somehow Iran is the bad guy. We are the world's terrorists. Come see us doing a live stand-up show in Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, Red Bank, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Covina, California, Burbank, California, Oxnard, California, Venice, California, and Palmdale, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.